Kids are back in school and we're getting back to the Real Estate Weekly video. We're getting into it right now. Where does the housing market stand? You're seeing lots of negative reports coming out of the job growth, especially Stats Canada in the last couple of months, where we're seeing 41,000 losses in July. We're seeing 66 losses on the job market right now in August. So not necessarily the greatest position to be in. But what does that mean right now for Kelowna's real estate market? We're going to break it down and compare how Kelowna is comparing to other centers like Vancouver and Toronto in the marketplace. So let's get right into it. Total inventory right now at all-time high, still near an all-time high as we're coming down, seasonal slowdown. We actually saw about 40, 50 listings coming off the market in the last month. So we look at the total numbers. This is obviously not the greatest sight. And I think a lot of home buyers are waiting on this. Home sellers are feeling the pinch because all the active listings, they're not getting as much activity on their homes as normally expected. If we look at the total numbers, we are up about 1,000 from where we were in 2023, but down from and up about 48 from last year. We are trending down month over month, down about 100 sales and down about 250 sales from June of this year. So we are trending down as we get into the winter season. You can notice where homes will drop off. By the month of December, we're going to see about 30% less homes on the market if you use the 10-year average. And this is where you need to really focus solely on this market and not necessarily following now we're going to go to the East Coast and just look at the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board for what's happening in the market. So I think a lot of the things you're seeing in the media is following the Toronto market. And what year over year summary, you're just going to break it down. Active listings here, 27,495 in 2025. That is up 22% from what it was last year. So Toronto is experiencing 22% higher listings than what it was last year. You're looking at a total of 5,000 additional listings. Total sale price is coming down about 5%. And average days on market is increasing slightly, but not a huge amount, 13 and 11%. But looking at it, so the total number of listings is up. Sales seems to be increasing a little bit better than what it was last year. But the new listings and inventory, the big talking point there. Now let's look a little bit more local. Now we're focusing on the local aspect of it and looking between, this is from BCREA, August 5th, 2025 here. Looking at the reports here. So the Thompson Okanagan we have here in this blue line, if you follow it there, this is the active listings on the market. It's normalizing it to 100, and that was back in 2019 date. So they normalized it back to 2019. So this is going to be a rating system based on difference between 2019, my apologies. Looking at August 2024, last year, 115, that was near our peak. That was about our peak here in the Okanagan. If you look down here, Lower Mainland. So we're going to compare Lower Mainland, Toronto, just see where there's different inventories changes. Lower Mainland was at 96, but you can see here how the curve has really taken a hold in Lower Mainland in the last year, where we saw a spike in new listing. This most likely was a lot of condo starts that finally finished between November of last year and then March of 2025. We had a spike about 12 points on this. What impact has the increase in active listing had on the home prices on it? Only supply and demand. That's economics 101. The supply, high amount of supply, which we've seen on the marketplace, often will result in lower prices. So is that true? And what is happening right now? We're looking at BCRA's HPI growth by region here. So in the Okanagan, the interior here, where it has definitely fluctuated. You see it, you follow the blue line there. We have remained fairly steady house pricing, up from January of 2024 slightly, but not a great deal. It's been relatively flat pricing. And we've also seen relatively flat new listings on the market. If you base it on what it was last year, this year. Lower Mainland seeing a little bit slight different trend, where we're starting to see a little bit bigger and fall off here. And so is this the end of the curve? It's tough to know if the home prices are going to continue in the Lower Mainland or if it's going to go up, but historically higher prices are often most likely the biggest first ones to change and going to be the last ones to really take off again, just based on affordability. Is the new rate decrease coming this week in the next couple of weeks with Bank of Canada? Might that play into it? Very rate sensitive. One of the most expensive markets, Lower Mainland, is going to be really impacted. A rate drop there will really impact and put in people's pockets a little bit more. Interior, the average price point was about $720,000 based on what's home price index up here, what average price by region, 720 back here. In Lower Mainland, it was still at $1,145,000. So you look at the average price by region and just envision what a rate decrease will do for each of those regions. Victoria is doing pretty well. Vancouver Island hanging in there as well, but relatively slow price growth across the board. So I think that's good news for sellers. Honestly, we're starting to see it, but you're competing against other home sellers right now in the marketplace, and buyers right now might be one of the better times to buy with a rate decrease up to 0.5%. The latest reports I'm seeing on. Time will tell on September 17th, but if you do have your eye on a property, it might be a good idea to get it under contract, wait and see what happened in both. Now moving on to the article segment on this. This is the new report from August 29th from the federal office. And this was from the federal office, the parliamentary budget. Essentially, the title, the headline says Canada needs to sustain record annual housing construction for a decade to affordability. And so we're breaking it down and looking at this article. It says Canada must deliver 3.2 net new housing units by 2035 to close the supply gap and the population drop. And this was all done from an analysis by the Government of Canada's Parliamentary Budget Officer. So something take in mind. So this is working out to, you further breaks it down to about across Canada, about 290,000 net new units per year, a pace that we've ever really sustained since the 2000. Looking at this isn't a pace we've sustained since 1970s, where there was peak around about 270,000 homes built that year. So let me know in the comments, do you agree with this? I definitely think we need to do something drastic in the supply to be able to get affordable housing. What does affordable housing mean though? What kind of calculations are they using? Last time I looked, I believe it was looking at 2019 figures. So trying to get home prices down to around 2019 prices. My one concern with it, we're not necessarily going to have the necessary right kind of supply that we actually need to live in. We're actually going to drive people out of our country continuously because they can't afford. This one is popping up after a couple of weeks ago, back in July. The next article we have is the stay coming out of West Vancouver, and it's not done yet. This is one that popped up at the end of July, where council voted this homeowner, this house, was going to have to completely demolish the additional building that they built. This additional building is around 1,500 square feet, and they built it without any building permits whatsoever. No permit for the foundation, no permits for the electrical, nothing like that. So more of the story is get permits on it. And the biggest thing on this one is it was built to a certain state, and the city cannot inspect it, do the proper city inspections based on the current state to be able to pass it based on today. So they are requested them to delay back in July of 21 to demolish their house and within 30 days. And so they have 60 days to have it completely torn down. But an update coming in is the city and the owners are negotiating to buy some more time. Maybe they can rip out some drywall and be able to get all the necessary permits done. But this is an ongoing saga. I'm sure this isn't the last time you're going to hear about it. But moral of the story is get your permits done, especially if you're building a new residence there. So you can see the building. The final article we have for you today is actually from Boynton Development. MNP went into receivership. So this is big news coming out of Kelowna. This was a large townhouse development that originally started back in 2019 when they went to pre-sale. They're finally just going into receivership. They had stopped building. They haven't even completed all the phases on this. So this is a unique situation where there are some homeowners that are currently living in this development, currently living it and occupying it, but then there is still some homes in here that has not completed. So roughly around it, this is a big order. This is all as of August, about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, that this is all coming to light on it. So we'll see how things go in the court. But if you're not familiar with prominent in this development, it is just off of Clifton as you head up north and backing onto mountains. Great neighborhood, and I'm fortunate that it happened. This was really designed as it is backing onto Knox Mountain, very central location, especially at the price point. There's a lot of townhomes coming in the $300,000 to $400,000 range when they're releasing them. They're selling right